Okay, I'm going to go over different methods for solving systems of equations. The first method I want to discuss is graphing. So whenever I'm asked to graph, I will use 0 because the number that doesn't have a letter attached goes with that because that's the y-intercept, so 0, 3. I also use the denominator of the fraction, so in this case it's a 3. The reason I do that is because the denominator then cancels out the x, and you do what's left. So negative 5 plus 3 is a negative 2. So 0, 3 is right here, and 3, negative 2 is right here. Then I'm going to connect those with a line. Okay, the next one, I use 0 and the number that doesn't have a letter attached to it because that's the y-intercept. And then I use the denominator, which is 3, and the reason I do that is because that crosses out the denominator and the x. You do what's left. 1 take away 3 is negative 2. So 0, negative 3 is right here. And 3, negative 2, 1, 2, 3, negative 2, I've already got that one graphed. So then I connect those with a line. And your final answer for systems of equations is where the two lines intersect when you're looking at a graph. So they both cross at 3, negative 2. So that is actually the answer. The answer is an ordered pair with the x value first, alphabetical order. So 3, negative 2 is the answer for that one. Okay, this next one, I am going to use 0 and the number that doesn't have a letter attached because that's my y-intercept. And then this is over 1, so I'm going to use the denominator, which is 1. You cancel out the denominator with x, and then you do what's left. 4 plus 3 is 7. Now this graph, this grid they gave you doesn't go up to 7, but that's okay. You can change the scale. Just write it down that you're changing the scale. So you need to write on each axis what you're counting by. So 0, 3, if you're counting by 2s, 0, 3 is right here. And 1, 7, this would be 1, 2, 4, 6, 7 is right there. And you connect those with a line. And I'm going to have to move it a little bit. You want your graph to be as accurate as possible because you're looking for the intersection. So your graph is not, if your graph is not accurate, that's as good as I'm going to get it here. We might need to move it a minute and see what we do. Okay, so I'm going to, remember there's a negative 1 in front of this x. If there's nothing in front of that, that's going to be important in a minute. So I'm going to use 0 and the number that doesn't have a letter attached, so that's negative 2. And then you're going to use the denominator. If there is no denominator, you put a 1. So you use that and then you do what's left. The denominator crosses out the x. So negative 1 and a negative 2 is a negative 3. So 0, negative 2, remember we're counting by 2s, so 0, negative 2 would be here, and 1, negative 3, if you're counting by 2s, that would be right here. I'm going to connect those lines. Sorry, those points, not those lines. Okay. Here's the problem with graphing. It's not always accurate if you don't graph it carefully. I'm going to say it's going to cross right here. So on the x-axis, if you go up, remember we're counting by 2s. So on the x-axis, it's at negative 1, and on the y-axis, it's also at negative 1. So the answer for this is negative 1 for x and negative 1 for y. Okay, now solve each system by substitution. You want to get a variable by itself and put a box around everything that's after the equal sign. So then you're going to write your equation, 5x, rewrite the other equation. When you get to that variable that they had by itself, you actually distribute the number in front by multiplying. So negative 4 times negative 3x is a positive 12x, and negative 4 times, notice I'm not doing the y because you're substituting in for what y is. Negative 4 times 5 is a negative 20. Everything else in the equation just gets written down. Okay, So then you've got 17x minus 20 equals negative 3. You're going to add 20 to both sides. So you get 17x, opposites cancel, equals negative 3 plus 20 is 17. Divide both sides by 17. Top cancels with bottom. 17 divided by 17 is 1. So x is 1. Now you have to find the y value. So the equation that you had the box around, you're going to copy that down. Y equals negative 3x plus 5. And we know now that x is 1, so I'm going to put that in for 1. Negative 3 times 1 plus 5. Well, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, and if you add 5 to that, you get 2. So 1, 2 is the answer for that one. Okay, substitution again. We are solving for y. Well, y is already, we've given a value for that already. So you go to the other equation and you start copying it down. Negative 3x. This says negative 3 times y, but you have a value for y. The y's value is negative 5x minus 17. So negative 3 times negative 5x is a positive 15x. And negative 3 times negative 17 is a positive 51. Everything else in the equation you continue to write down. So equals 3. So we've got negative 3x and a positive 15x. That is 12x plus 51 equals 3. I'm going to subtract 51 from both sides. 12x, opposites cancel, equals negative 48. Divide both sides by 12. Top cancels with bottom. X equals negative 48 divided by 12 is negative 4. So x equals negative 4 in our answer. Now we've got to find the y value. But we know that y equals negative 5x minus 17. So I'm going to do negative 5 times what we found x to be, which was negative 4, and then subtract 17. So y equals negative 5 times negative 4 is 20 minus 17. Y equals 3. Okay. The next one, actually, on this next one, they've done half the work for us. They told us the y is negative 2. So on our answer, we know that y is negative 2. We just got to find the x value. So I'm going to take this other equation and write it in 4x. This says negative 3 times y. So negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6 equals 18. Subtract 6 from both sides. 4x, opposites cancel, equals 18. Take away 6 is 12. Divide both sides by 4. X equals 3. This next one, number 6, they tell you the value of y is 5x minus 7. So I write down negative 3x. This says negative 2 times y, so I have to take everything in my box times negative 2. So negative 2 times 5x is a negative 10x, and negative 2 times negative 7 is a positive 14. Continue to write your equation, equals negative 12. So a negative 3x and a negative 10x is a negative 13x plus 14 equals negative 12. I subtract 14 from both sides. Negative 13x, opposites cancel, equals negative 26. Divide both sides by negative 13. Top cancels with bottom. X equals negative 26 divided by negative 13 is a positive 2. So our answer for x is a positive 2. Now we got to find the y value. Well, we know that y equals 5x minus 7. So So I know that x is 2 now, so I can plug that in for x. So 5 times 2 minus 7, you get 10 minus 7, which equals 3. So 2, 3 is the answer to that one. Okay, the final method that I want to go over or review is solving each system by elimination. Elimination, you add up and down, kind of like what you did in elementary school. So, well, we've got a problem here because you want to eliminate one of your variables, and when you add the x's together, you get negative 12. When you put the y's together, you get a positive 9. So we're not ready yet. So if I take, let's take this bottom equation. You can work with either equation. If I multiply everything by negative 1, my x's will be forced to cancel out. So I'm just going to write negative 6x plus 6y equals 6. Multiply everything on the bottom equation by negative 1. So I get 6x minus 3y equals 12. Add those together. Opposites cancel. 6 take away 3 is 3, so I've got 3y equals 18. Divide both sides by 3. Top cancels with bottom. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So the y value on my answer is 6. Now you need to choose one of the equations, one of the original equations. It doesn't matter which one you choose. I usually choose the one with the smaller numbers or the less number of negative signs. So I'm just going to choose this top one. And you write it down like it is, negative 6x plus 6y equals 6. But we know that y equals 6 now, so we can do kind of like we did in the other example. You substitute that in. So we've got 6 times 6 equals 6. So negative 6x plus 6 times 6 is 36 equals 6. I'm going to subtract 36 from both sides. So I've got negative 6x, opposites cancel, equals negative 30. Divide both sides by negative 6. Top cancels with bottom. X equals negative 30 divided by negative 6 is a positive 5. So x equals 5. So 5, 6 is my answer for that one. Okay, on the next one, if I look at it carefully, if I take one of the equations for y, if one of the values for y, and multiply by negative 1, let's do the top one this time, it will cancel out. You can choose either equation to work with. Your final answer, if you do your algebra correctly, will be the same. So negative 1 times 7x is negative 7x. Negative 1 times 2y is negative 2y. Equals negative 1 times 24 is negative 24. The bottom equation, I'm going to leave it alone. So 8x plus 2y equals 30. Okay, so 8x take away 7x is just x. Opposites cancel. Equals 30 take away 24 is 6. So x is 6. Now I take one of my other equations, one of the original equations. I'm going to pick the one with the smaller numbers. So I'm just going to choose the top one, the original equation. So 7x plus 2y equals 30. But I know that x equals 6 now, so I can say 7 times 6 plus 2y equals 30. I don't need a parentheses there. Okay, 7 times 6 is 42, plus 2y equals 30. Subtract 42 from both sides. Opposites cancel. 2y equals negative 12. Divide both sides by 2. Y equals negative 6. Okay, number 9. If I multiply the top equation by 2, I can get, sorry, it's got to be a negative 2. Negative 2, I can get my x's to cancel out. So let's do that. There's a whole bunch of different approaches you can take, and it doesn't mean your approach is incorrect. Like I said, these are systems of equations, so you can do different approaches and get the same answer. Okay, so negative 2 times 5x is negative 10x. Negative 2 times y is negative 2y equals negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. And we're going to leave this one alone. So 10x minus 7y equals negative 18. I'm going to add those in columns. So opposites cancel. I get negative 9y equals negative 36. Divide both sides by negative 9. Top cancels with bottom. Y equals negative 36 divided by negative 9 is a positive 4. Okay, so then I'm going to choose to work with the original, the top equation. So 5x plus y equals 9. But I know that y is 4, so I can say 5x plus 4 equals 9. Subtract 4 from both sides. 5x, opposites cancel, equals 9 take away 4 is 5. Divide both sides by 5. Top cancels with bottom. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So I'm sorry, I wrote the y value in the wrong spot. It's got to be alphabetical order. So x is first. So x is 1 and y is 4. Okay, on the next one. Negative 4x plus 9y equals 9 and x minus 3y equals negative 6. I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by 4 to get my x's to cancel. So leave the top equation alone. Negative 4x plus 9y equals 9. The bottom equation, multiply everything by 4. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3y is negative 12y equals 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Opposites cancel. 9 take away 12 is a negative 3y equals 9 take away 24 is a negative 15. Divide both sides by negative 3. Top cancels with bottom. Negative 15 divided by negative 3 is a positive 5. And that's the y value, so we got to find the x value. Okay, I'm going to take the bottom equation, x minus 3y equals negative 6. I'm going to plug in 5 for y, so x minus 3 times 5 equals negative 6. X minus 15 equals negative 6. I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Opposites cancel, so x equals 15 take away 6 is 9.